Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another special episode of Cinema A to B. Okay, so we've teased this thing forever. Alec and I are huge fans of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we've been teasing for months that we want to do a little mini season of Schwarzenegger. And we didn't have a number of films originally kind of allotted, but we finally pared it down. And so for the next...
To all of them. Every single
we're going to do
film.
all of them. No. We're going to do 5, but in the 5, we're technically going to do 6.
Yeah.
Because we like to cheat. So we've already done Predator. We did that back in February of 2024. So that won't be in the list, but it would have made the list. So what happened was I came up with a top 10 favorite Arnold films. Alec came up with a top 10. By the time this runs, they'll be on social media. You can take a look at them. And we've created a compilation of those top 5 with a caveat. We're going to do Terminator and Terminator 2 in the same episode. And those fell at number 1 and number 5. So that means that we get down deeper into our ranking, and we've already done Predator. So the 2 we get into is True Lies and then Running Man. So today we are going to discuss The Running Man.
We are going to discuss.
We are. So Alec, after this long bloviated introduction, what are your thoughts in 2024 from 1987's The Running Man?
Okay. So I need to preface this, obviously, because I do love Arnold. And so there's a soft spot in this. And I think I've not had as much fun as watching Arnold films with you in the multiple apartments that we've had over the years that we lived together. They were just great. I mean, as one, we had seen them a dozen times each already. And so you were quoting things in our terrible Arnold impressions. And I do have to say, though, I went back and I watched The Running Man. I remember fondly The Running Man. It was not my favorite by any stretch of the mean. I think it was my bottom 5 in my top 10 list. But I rewatched it and I enjoyed it because it's Arnold. But my goodness, it is not a great film at all in so many ways. And I think a lot of it, basically I just kept writing down in my little notes as I'm watching this was this is 89. So obviously he's already done Terminator.
This is
already done
87.
87? Oh, 87. Sorry.
87. Yeah.
My apologies. 87. 87. So still it's post Terminator. It's post Conan the Barbarian. It's, he's become a already not maybe a household name, but pretty close to a household name.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
And the one thing I kind of, yeah.
I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
This feels like the amalgamation of like every Arnold film together. Like all the quotes that are great are from other films for the most part, except for like there's one quote that I love where it's like, "I hope you left enough room for my fist because I'm gonna ram it into your stomach." Yeah, like yes. I love that quote. But then he says, "I'll be back," which I'm like, which I'm sure in 87 you're like, yeah. But like, come on, it's 40 years later. Like we did not need to have "I'll be back" again. We got it all the time. Anytime he comes out, he says "I'll be back." So obviously you've seen this in a different thing. And it felt like all the tropes of Arnold, like he's constantly has a cigar in his mouth whenever he has a chance. He's got the World's Gym t-shirt on it, like in the Gold's Gym fonts. A ton of silly one-liners, which is typical to Arnold films, but I just feel like it's slightly overdone in this. Now, I do like the premise of the film. I do think the sci-fi nature of this is interesting. Seeing this now, before I've watched some of the others, if I was to give you the typical Arnold film, the one that's like has a little bit of everything else in it, it would be Running Man, and not in the good way. Like, not in the good way in any sense of the word. So it's still fun. I still really enjoyed it again, but I could just see how flawed it really is. And
it is. It's super flawed. And in fact, it's awful at the start. Okay. So there's a couple things going on at the beginning with that sequence of like what really happens in Bakersfield. And okay. So first off, I don't even think it's green screen. I think it's rear projection is awful in the helicopter. It looks like trash. And they actually shot with a real Huey. And I'm like, now you wouldn't even have used those shots, like where you could see how bad it wasn't even compositing. Like it was rear projection, like in a set, a helicopter set with Arnold flying. But Arnold's acting in that sequence is just trash. Yes. Absolutely atrocious. Like the women and children down there, they're not be firing on innocent people. You know, it's super awful. And it's really weird because like the rest of the movie, his acting isn't that bad. Like he's more in his comfort zone, but like the direction, I just have to chalk it up to bad direction, right? Like the direction for the helicopter sequence is garbage. And the problem is that I don't get to just watch the helicopter sequence one time in the beginning of the movie. No, I watch the edited tape version again, where he's like, you know, gonna massacre everybody. I do love that
unedited tape as well. Like later on, it's like,
I was like, I gotta watch this sequence again. It's terrible. Oh, and the other thing is the movie's not long. It's an hour and 41 minutes, and it takes like every bit of 40 minutes before the games actually start. Yeah. Like the lead-in's way longer than I remember. I was like, man, this is taking forever to get into him actually being the running man. But I will say, once that starts, it's fantastic. And even before that, it's really good because Richard Dawson might be one of the best casting decisions of all time. Like absolutely. An actual game show host, face of the Family Feud for a long time. Like to cast him in this as Killian was just genius. And the movie is elevated exponentially. Okay, so I have this like sitting at, I think you raked it in your top 10. I'm looking right now. You have number 8 in your top 10 favorites. I have it number 7, right ahead of Commando. The reason for that is Dawson. Dawson is way better a villain in The Running Man than the guy that plays in Commando. That's just like out of shape and fat and whatever. I love Commando, and we will do Commando at a later date, but not as part of this. But yeah, it's Dawson. I can't say enough good things about him as Killian. He's just superb. Like as good a villain as there probably is in an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, to be honest. Like if I start stacking up the villains in his movies that he goes up against, man, Killian's really good. Yeah.
Though, to put in a little gossip, Richard Dawson wasn't acting in that role, basically.
No.
is what the word on the street is like, that's actually how he treated his employees on Family Feud.
And he was also known as the kissing bandit. He kissed every single woman that was on that show.
Oh my goodness. Oh, terrible. There was a lot of interesting decisions when you have, like, the one thing I also wrote down was when they go to Amber's apartment or whatever, like his brother's apartment, and then she comes back and she's doing stuff, and then she's working out in like a nightie. I'm like, who does this? Like, come on, like what's going on? Like, come on, director, come on, Paul Glazer.
It's the 80s.
It's the 80s. Yeah,
this thing's dripping with the 80s. By the way,
it is like very much so,
which I kind of love. I feel like this movie, with the whole embracing the whole 80s retro aesthetic, I feel like this movie is like more appreciated maybe now than it was maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, just because, I mean, the dance routines.
That was the movie could be a whole lot shorter if they took that out, and I don't think it'd be that much worse.
Yeah. By the way, like 5 minutes. I was watching it and a thought struck me, and it probably is not the case, but I'm watching it. I'm going, did Peter Weir watch this before making Truman Show? Because there's like some of the buildup reminded me of the buildup to the Truman Show with the crew, and like it felt really similar. They like, yeah, but you're right. There's like, it's like 10 or 15 minutes of runtime is nothing but them like, all right, activate camera 1. And by the way, did you catch the Franco Columbo cameo?
Yeah. It was fun.
I'd seen this movie forever and had always missed that. But.
Well, there's so many of Arnold's friends in this film. Yeah, it's like just again, it's one of those like, all right, we're just. I mean, like he did it with Predator. He threw in a lot of his working out buddies, but this one, like, I just felt like, all right, let's just stuff you wherever, and let's do it, and let's just have my buddies be every character in this film.
Yeah, you've got Sven Old Thorson as the guard, and then he's Tigress in Gladiator, like he's the veteran gladiator that comes out of retirement, and he was in The Running Man, and he was also in he's one of the big baddies in Conan the Barbarian. So,
well, yeah, I mean, and obviously Jesse Ventura is in it.
Oh yeah, I laughed so hard the first time they brought Jesse Ventura on. And he's walking through the locker room and he's like, I'm back here with all the, all the stalkers, and we're just waiting. And then he gets cut off by
killing. He's like,
we need to cut live. And you can just see the look of disappointment in his face. It's just like,
but you also have the fantastic and amazing Jim Brown, who is in this film.
Yeah. As Fireball.
And as a Cleveland Browns fan, man, like that should just put this movie up just a couple extra notches.
Maybe, but by the same token, Jim Brown had a, shall we say, complicated off-field legacy.
He did have.
Mainly with the treatment of women, but Cleveland Brown, great. And he's like, so I looked it up. He's like 50 or 51 in this.
Mm-hmm. He looks great. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, he's in fantastic shape. Yeah. So yeah, it's like they put cooler actors in as the stalkers and in the guard. I have to say, I like the guy that plays Laughlin, Yaphet Kotto, but I don't care for the guy that plays Weiss, the computer nerd. Like, I'm just like,
yeah. But it worked.
And then Dynamo's just ridiculous. Like, I mean, it's just, well, all the other stalkers are pretty physically formidable opponents, but then there's just Dynamo.
Well, I love that you can actually see him singing in multiple scenes, but they don't have any audio for it. Like they just cut it out, and like he's like probably going full bore of like this whole opera, because he actually was an opera singer, and so he's probably going full bore, and they're just like, nope, not gonna work. We're just gonna cut it, but we're not gonna actually cut you singing, just the audio from it, and so you're gonna look silly, and it does. It's pretty funny, but
the interesting thing though is like, other than when they're kind of in the exteriors of the gaming zones, everything's just lit with like blue and red light, which for the scene with Sub-Zero, I thought was kind of cool. And then they just keep reusing it when he's fighting Buzzsaw. And by that point I was like, okay, you already used that lighting scheme. Like this is kind of looking uninteresting. And that really dates the movie. Some of the lighting schemes just aren't kind of uninspired, I guess.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like at the beginning, though, after he's been imprisoned, the movie has a very good lived in look to it for the most part. Like things are pretty dirty, even in the gaming zones. Like it feels very dystopian, especially for an 80s movies that didn't always pull that off very well. Like the really convincing dystopian stuff you started to get in the 90s with a more naturalist looking lighting scheme and like just a kind of a commitment to reality.
Yeah.
So they got some things right, but I have to say the movie starts in a trash way with the helicopter sequence, and that ending song is freaking garbage. I don't even know what the track is, but it's like a traditional like synth score there would have been fine, but it's like, I'll have to look up what the song is, but it's like it's a ballad. It's like a love ballad, and it's terrible.
It is
like really, really bad.
There's so many bad choices in this film and maybe they were good choices in 87, but I don't think they were. But my goodness. Oh,
but I still love the movie. Like
it's fun. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of good things, like the whole neck thing, and going back, there's a lot of questions I have about security, of how terrible the security is at that facility. But I digress. This is a film.
I don't understand why all the guards were wearing masks.
Well, and also, why do they just have a folding table that has the thing on that has like no like backing. So like if I get a gun, I can just shoot you from the other side. Like,
well, why is the keypad code machine there?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Why is it on the inside? And then, like, oh,
yeah,
besides
great. Oh, and then that one guy that just insists on running towards the barrier, even though they've told him like it's not.
He needed to die. He needed to die.
Apparently.
And that was some great editing there because it was like quick little explosion, cut away, cut back. And now it's just a body that falls to the ground. Like you don't really, it's, we're not getting Verhoeven like blood and guts and gore kind of situation here in that explosion of the head. Cause he would have.
That's what's wild is you go in 3 years. He does this from a movie like that. Well, he did Predator the same year as this. So like
such a better movie.
Director. Oh yeah, no. And directors matter. Yeah. Like directors matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. This Paul Michael Glaser.
I mean, and he doesn't have a bad grouping of stuff. I mean, like I'm trying to like,
well, it's the guy that played Starsky. It's Starsky and Hutch.
But he also did some like The Cutting Edge. He did, what else did he do? Maybe that's the only thing that he really did that was like, I mean, I grew up watching The Cutting Edge. I don't think it's probably that great of a movie, but he also did The Air Up There. I mean, that thing, Air Up There is like Golden Globe winner. Just kidding. It's not. It's terrible, but that's beside the point.
Is that the one with Kevin Bacon? He's a scout.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fantastic film.
Okay. Sure it is, Ben. All right, let's moving on. My joke has failed.
Oh yeah. He goes to Africa to recruit a kid to play in the NBA. The Air Up There. Oh, he even directed Kazam.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
a whole lot of great stuff.
We're starting to understand here
why this movie isn't terrible. Now,
but I still adore the film. Like I love the 80s excess in it.
Yeah.
The neon lights, the music, the halftime dancers, like it, and then the premise is great, right? It is, and it's not, I think it's just happenstance that we're talking about this, but I mean, the remake is greenlit.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be directed, I believe, by Edgar Wright and starring Glenn Powell
and Lee Pace and Josh Brolin.
And there's a good reason for that because the Stephen King material is way darker, and he isn't wrongfully imprisoned. He volunteers for the game show because he needs the money to save like a dying kid.
Oh,
and there's not multiple stalkers. There's one really main one, which is going to be Pace. And the game takes place over 30 days all over the country. And you have to provide video evidence that you've like defeated like the police or whoever's after you. And he's like sending in tapes. So I don't know how close it's going to look way different. Yeah. But I maintain that this is still actually a pretty good adaptation. Mm-hmm. Like as far as what the story is, it's pretty faithful. Although the ending of the Stephen King thing is super dark.
Yeah. Well, that's Stephen King. Now, are they going to have Steve Harvey then be Killian?
No, it's
Drew Carey.
No, it's Josh Brolin.
Oh, Josh Brolin is supposed to be Killian? I didn't know who.
Yeah, and Killian in the book is not a host. He is the producer.
Oh,
so it's a different. It's just a different animal.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, but it's way darker. Like it's really dark. And if they hold to the ending of the book, like,
no.
Yeah,
is Amber in it, like the female character?
Yeah, her name's something different, but
so you know who they're going to get to play that. You know,
Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah. For our listeners, Ben and I had a text conversation today talking about Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney and about how they're the actors being pushed on us.
They are being pushed, yes.
They're very much so.
And I wish them well, but I don't like that they're being pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's a discussion for another time. I just think it's apropos and funny.
Yeah.
So
this falls in line with Commando for me as far as like the body count, like the death count, and then the cheese one-liners.
Yeah. I did put this for me higher than Commando. I think just because I like the more sci-fi element to it. I haven't watched Commando in a long time either, so I don't know. But I just remember it being just as cheesy. And I think I put Commando as like the typical Arnold film. That is more so than this, but this is very like classic bad Arnold action film that has a good premise.
And he's got
charisma.
Oh, he's got so much charisma. Yeah.
Or
even when he's delivering lines like, this is Sub-Zero, now Plane Zero.
I'm like, that's terrible.
Yeah. Oh. But he delivers it with such gusto that and then like, what happened to Buzzsaw? Oh, he had to split.
Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Wait, I need a clarification. Because Arnold wore a World's Gym. Didn't he own a gym called World's Gym?
I think he was an investor in World Gym, for a while.
Okay, all right, maybe that's why.
Yeah, it was an actual gym chain.
Okay, then never mind.
It's funny because the logo looks like very similar to Gold's.
Yeah, well, and that's what obviously made me think of immediately when I saw it.
Oh no, it was founded by Joe Gold, so it's like an offshoot. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, I don't understand. There's still locations for World Gym. So yeah, it's still around. But yeah, he was promoting that.
Oh, but going back to the remake, one quick thing. Edgar Wright is directing, who did like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, no, he's been wanting to do an adaptation, like a faithful adaptation, he says forever. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited because the 87 is like kind of maintains, I think, the spirit of the material. It changes a lot, but the spirit of it is still there. It's still a corrupt game show with government control, dystopian, like that's all the same. But what Wright and them will do is going to be right in line with what King has written. And it's darker. And I think, and Powell is not a bad choice because the character in the book is not, in fact, Powell might be too fit because King was famously quoted in saying that Arnold was literally the polar opposite of who the character is in the book. Like he was supposed to be like kind of a gangly guy that just, I think, won more because of his mind than his brute strength. So maybe Powell will drop some weight or something. Because you remember that was my complaint with him in Hitman when he was supposed to be nerdy. It was like, no, he's still like too fit.
Yeah, way too fit.
Yeah. I did read that they said the strength of this movie compared to the book was creating multiple stalkers that all had their different weapons and styles. They were like, there's none of that in the book. The book reads more like the assassins in like the Bourne Identity.
Okay.
It's very straight, which I think Lee Pace will pull off. Yeah.
Oh man, he's fantastic.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. It's great and everything. I wish he was in more material.
Though I wish he was in sometimes better material. So too, I'm not a big fan of Foundation.
Yeah. But I will say that there is a letdown element to this movie, though, when it comes to Jesse Ventura. The fact that it's like, it's cool on one hand that they use computer technology to like simulate this fight, but it still would have been really cool to actually get a legitimate fight between Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger on film for in the context of the movie for real, instead of him just walking off and then they just fake it.
We'll never know who's the better actor, better action star. It's Arnold. That's spoiler. Spoiler. It's Arnold. But speaking of Arnold, which we've done a lot already, but I do have to say, when he's in the prison, in the work camp or whatever, he's carrying that I-beam, like just his arm looks so stinking huge. Like the biggest I've seen out of all of his movies. Like when I just saw it, I was like, my goodness, he's ripped.
He's like 40 there.
Yeah. My goodness.
Yeah. Although his beard looks fake.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It looks
I always notice that of like, that looks like it's just glued on.
Yeah, it is. It's not good. It's not good at all. It's terrible. Much like the rest of the movie where, you got a lot of glued on parts that just don't fit. So.
Yeah, it's pretty uneven.
Yeah.
It's pretty uneven.
And it didn't do well. Like, I mean, think what was it? It was like $38 million in the box office on a budget of like 25, 26, something
27.
like that. 27.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, he didn't really do that well. But Arnold still did. He still went on to make fantastic films.
But by this point, 87, you started to get, video rental and was part of the pie. So it didn't have to
make all its money in the, oh man.
No.
We're not going to go down that rabbit hole again, but
no.
Physical media, people. Physical media, yeah. There's an element of this movie that's definitely like a snapshot in time as far as it being definitively peak 80s. Peak 80s excess. It's all there, warts and all. Now, here's the question. And this is because if I remember correctly, he still had the high cheekbones in this.
You and your high cheekbones.
Okay. Watch Predator and then watch Terminator 2. Like there's a distinct difference in his cheekbones.
So I have a theory on this, and it has nothing to do with plastic surgery.
Okay. What's your theory?
So when you're on higher levels of performance enhancing drugs, especially testosterone and Dianabol and other steroids, it does change your face shape a little bit. And you get a more like gaunt face with the way you hold water. And I think that's what it is. I think the movies where he looks like he has high cheekbones, he's running more gear. And I think the later movies, he's running less. He's either running no gear or way lower dosages. And so his face doesn't look, plus your face gets thicker as you age too.
Okay.
So I actually don't think but that was always a rumor. I remember my father telling me that that was a rumor that he had his cheekbones like filed down, basically plastic surgery. Like,
yeah. But needless to say, his cheeks do look different.
His cheeks look different.
Regardless of if it was plastic surgery or if it was steroids or whatever, his cheeks.
Oh, he's definitely on cycle in this movie. I mean, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
But to his credit, he didn't do that year round. He only did it for competitions, and he only did it in the lead up to movie roles. And then he stopped completely, like cold turkey. You can go online and look at photos of him off cycle, and he doesn't look anywhere. He's still got a big frame, but big chest and stuff, but he doesn't look the same. You got any?
No, this was a depressing one to start off with the Arnold film of us kind of just talk about it. It's still great. I still love it. It's still Arnold. It still makes me happy to watch this film, but just it has its, like you said, it has its warts, and they really came out in this viewing.
But that's true. I think that's true of anything outside of like the top 5 or 6 movies that he's done. I think you get into those territories and everything starts to become pretty uneven. So
yeah,
I think that's true of most actors. So his filmography is still amazing though.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, Jingle All the Way, by and large, just hands down.
Turbo. Is it Turbo Man?
Oh, don't even. I tried. There was something that came out recently of his that I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch it because it's Arnold, and then I stopped it. I just couldn't. It was just so bad. I was like, this is just absolutely horrendous.
By the way, Phil Hartman's character in Jingle All the Way might be one of the most heinous characters in any Arnold film ever.
A great villain, just like Richard Dawson. There we go. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, no. My goodness. All right. Anyways.
Well, we will wrap up our first entry here on this mini season of Schwarzenegger.
Oh, I like this.
And I didn't mention it at the top, but we are dedicating this mini season to my father, who unfortunately passed away back in August. He was a huge Arnold fan and passed on his love of all things Schwarzenegger to me from a wee lad. And so I dedicated this to him. We definitely miss him, but
we do.
We got 4 more episodes, technically 5 more films because of us cheating with the Terminator and T2. But we will be back on next week with, what is it?
Oh, it is.
It's True Lies.
It's True Lies.
It's True Lies.
I had the wrong thing pulled up. It's True Lies.
Yeah, True Lies by good old Jim Cameron. So we look forward to talking that one.
It's going to be fun to talk about.
Next up. Yeah, it will. Yeah, it will. I don't think we'll be trashing that one as much as
I hope not. I haven't watched it for a while.
Oh, you know.
Going into the Running Man, I was like, I love this movie.
I'm hopeful on that.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful on that.
I think it'll be good.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you listening once again. And jump over there onto YouTube and drop us a line.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everybody.